Hey, hi all. Welcome to another video on the accounts receivable invoice adjustment. So in this session, what we will be discussing is the invoice adjustment at invoice level. So we will discuss more about the adjustment type. So let me log into the system and come from the beginning. So I'm in the receivables work area or the session coming into billing. And here I will be querying one particular invoice. Invoice that we created in the last session, 50769. I'm navigating into the adjustment region, that is manage adjustment. And I'm just clicking on a plus icon to create an invoice adjustment. So here we will be discussing more about this particular field that is, or the field that is available to us, that is called as the adjustment type. So an invoice adjustment, as we discussed in the first video, it is either to increase the customer balance or decrease the customer balance. Now, against which value that is there in the invoice, we can do this adjustment. One is the charge adjustment. So the invoice is having some charges applied or a freight applied, right? We can adjust on that. Or invoice adjustment, this is at the overall level. And this is line adjustment, which we proceeded in the first video with at line level, we can do the adjustment. And next, if we want to adjust the tax, we can select the tax adjustment. Just to add on top of this about the last video, in the line adjustment, if we select, we don't have an option to select which line item we are adjusting. So what system will do is, suppose if this is a multi-invoice, say for example, 1 or 2 or 5 lines are there, and we are adjusting say $10 or $20. We don't have an option at present to select at which particular line we are doing the adjustment. So the system will do a prorate basis adjustment. The whatever the amount that we are giving here, it will be distributed into all the lines on a pro rata basis. So that is on the line adjustment, just to add clarity. Now comes the invoice adjustment. Invoice adjustment is on the overall level. Okay. Now, where the invoice adjustment is highly useful, and normally how it works in the business scenario, I'll just explain. For that, let me come to the system. So for the invoice adjustment, let's say first we will create an invoice which is of line amount 100 and tax will be there and total of $109. All the amounts are in dollar. Line amount, tax, and total. Now the customer is paying. The second one will be a receipt creation. That receipt is created for a total of say $105. Now in the third scenario, we will do an adjustment of a total of $4. So in essence, we are making the balance as 0 now. Okay. So I'll show how the invoice is getting created, how receipt is getting created, and how when we come back, how the automatically the $4 is getting reflected in the adjustment screen. Okay. Now let me come and create a new transaction. Create transaction. Selecting the business unit, transaction sources manual, transaction type invoice. Customer is business world is what I'm selecting. Okay. Test 100. $100. Complete entry. So now we have a transaction total of 109. Let me post this to G. So we accounting, I can say the same accounting. I'll just copy paste it for our discussion purpose. This is the same accounting that we are seeing. Okay, receivable of total of debit and revenue credit and tax. So credit. Now just the balance is 109. Let me note down the invoice number 50770. I will create a receipt. Receipts, we are going into accounts receivable and clicking on create receipt. So receipt is of a standard receipt. We have two receipts, right? One is standard and another one is miscellaneous. For us, we are selecting standard. We are selecting the same business unit. And receipt method, I'm selecting some receipt method because our main focus is on the adjustment part. And the business account number or name, I'm just selecting business world. And site, we have San Jose on the invoice, selecting the same. And how much we received from the customer in our example, it is $105. Okay. Now we will click on submit and apply manually. Okay, receipt number. This receipt 50770. This is just, we can key in any name, number or whatever, but I'm giving a receipt and an invoice reference. Essentially, this can be anything. Pretext. Submit and apply manually. So here I am adding the open receivable that we just created. I'm giving the reference as 5 and then searching it. So selected the total amount of due is 109. It's added and clicking on that. So our invoice is of $109. What the customer paid to us is $105. And if we apply this particular invoice to this particular receipt, what is remaining is the $4. Okay, saving it and posting it to Ledger. So here we can see in the receipt part, our cash account, confirmed cash is 105 because that is what we received from customer. Cash is an asset account, so debit will increase that value. What is the receivable? It is now 105, that is got credit. So now the balance on this one is 109 minus 105, that is the $4 will be remaining. This is the receipt accounting. Okay. Let's go back to our invoice. For invoice, we'll come to the billing area. This time we will query the transaction. So before doing the adjustment, let us quickly check the balance. See, the balance is of $4. Okay, and whatever the amount that is paid, it is just the receipt amount is splitted across the invoice lines and the tax. This is again on a pro rate basis. Now I'll come to the adjustment. So receivable activity, we are selecting this receivable activity to determine the credit side of the entry or the debit side of the entry, depending upon whether we are increasing or decreasing the invoice balance from the customer. So this will have a GL count combination. The moment I select here, the distribution is getting auto-populated. That is on the receivable activity. We will cover in detail on receivable activity in a later video. Now coming into the adjustment type, I'm selecting the invoice adjustment. So here automatically we can see that -$4 is the pending and the total invoice is getting now knocked off and balance will become 0. So if at the header level or at the invoice level we select, it will become the system will auto populate whatever is the balance there. Okay, clicking on submit button and a new adjustment has been created and it is in the approved status. We'll post this entry also into GL and we will see the account. So you can see adjustment account is debited and receivable account is credited. The same that we discussed in the first video, we can say this is now 4 and this is now 4. If you see the receivable, the balance is now 0. Okay. I'll quickly show the balance also in the system. The balance is now 0. And the adjustment is also prorated. Whatever is pending on the lines and the taxes now gone. Okay. Thanks, and we'll see in another video.